Hey everybody again. So thank you so much for joining us to our second digital mastery call. Again, we're doing those calls every other week on Wednesday at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Today specifically, we're going to be talking about the 25 website building mistakes you can't afford to make. In this process, we've done hundreds of websites in our career and reviewed and looked at tens of thousands of websites, and we see everything from anywhere. And we hope that by the end of this call, you'll have the true understandings and of the fundamentals that you need to know, but also some of the advanced stuff that we do from a professional standpoint to help you take your website to the next level and help you avoid any type of pitfalls that you may, that could hurt you in the process. We have with us today, which we're going to actually have him join us every week, is also Nanko. Nanko has been working with our team for more than 5 years. And Nanko, great to have you again.
Great to have me again. Thank you. And as you said, we worked on hundreds of projects already, so I'm excited to share some experience.
Awesome, awesome. So, we like to get right into it, not waste too much time. We have a lot to cover, 25 points. So, sit tight. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started right now. So the first point that we want to talk about is relevant to owning your website domain. So we have a lot of clients that come to us where they're just a startup, they're a new company, and they want to know what is the first step that they need to do. And the truth is, before you even do anything, make sure you own the domain itself. The domain is basically, for those of you who don't know, is that, the address bar, that URL that shows up. So let's say apple.com is a domain, insta360.com is a domain, nike.com is a domain. You want to make sure you buy them. The way to get your domain is simply go to a website either like GoDaddy, Namecheap, whichever one you prefer, but make sure that you can buy it and own it. We've seen many times clients come to us with an already built website that they want to do something new, and they realize that they don't own the domain. Someone else bought it, someone that used to work in the company or their previous web developer, and then find themselves in a situation that is very awkward and sometimes even like almost like they feel like a hostage because they can't do anything without the domain. They have to start from scratch. And important to understand that you don't want to build a website, especially if you start a company, and then change your domain in a few years. The reason your domain is accumulating reputation and people get familiar with it. And changing your domain could be very expensive, not just from the cost of buying the domain itself, because that can actually be cheap, but actually from the cost of what you're going to lose, that digital asset. So before you do anything, we always tell our clients, even our clients that want us to buy the domain for them, we tell them we're going to guide them how to do it rather than have us buy, because we want a client to own the asset. So you want to really make sure that you own the domain. If you already have a site, check, make sure that you own the domain. And if you don't know, then talk to your web developer. You can reach out to us to help you figure this process, but ensure that you have it, and that if you don't, that you start transferring it as to your account when you are in good terms with everybody in the company and everybody you're working with. Don't wait until you need it, and then it may be too late and you may not be able to get access to it anymore, because it doesn't matter if your company is the same name as the domain. If you don't own it, it's almost impossible to access it if the person that owns it doesn't want to give it to you. So really make sure that you own the domain. That's key. And with owning the domain, let's talk about some spelling.
So aside from owning the domain, it's good to have a domain that is easy to read, spell, and remember. So don't use overly generic domains. Um,
Yeah, for example, you can have, let's say your company is, and again, I'm just using Apple because everybody knows them, so it's easy. But let's say apple.com is taken. So you don't want your domain to be buyfromapple.com, something along like that. Like you want to think about something short. So maybe you would add the word get in the front, or with, or add something at the end. Like, Dropbox.com used to be getdropbox.com before they actually got Dropbox.com. But you don't want your domain to be something too long, because what happens if somebody needs to write you an email or type it, they're much more likely to make a typo, and the email, the communication not going to get to you, or they're not be able to find your website. So when it comes to your domain, try to keep it simple. It doesn't have to be extremely short. If you can buy your .com domain as well, we still believe there is a great value around .com domain. It's always better than any other option that's available, but it's not a must. If your .com domain is not available or it's just way too expensive, don't worry about it, especially not in your early stages. If it is available, maybe it costs a couple $100 as an investment, consider doing it because it's securing your brand, it's securing your reputation, it's a good way to do it. And then the last part when it comes to the domain, make sure that whoever is working with your domains knows what they're doing, or you need to know what you're doing, because when you go live with a website, there's multiple settings. We call those DNS settings of your domain. And again, we can do another call just about that. But just in short, when you make changes on those settings, you're actually pointing your domain to show a specific web address, or you're pointing your domain to send emails from a specific email service carrier. You want to understand how those DNS settings work so that you don't end up changing something for your website, but then later on something else breaks. Okay, so just some of those things to keep in mind. Let's go on to point number 2, which is basically not planning site goals before building. Most companies, when they first want to build a website, they have the idea about, okay, we have a product, we have a service, let's talk about it, let's talk about us and what we do. And that's totally fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but you want to have a specific purpose. You want to set an intention for your website and for every single page before you start, to truly think through how is someone going to land on that web page and what is it they need to hear. And in most cases, you'll understand that you don't necessarily want to overdo and speak too much about your product and services. You want to show them, you want to explain them, but you also want to take into consideration the audience that's reviewing those pages and where they are and what they're going through, what are their challenges, talk about their problems, because that's how you build this relatedness with your audience. So make sure that you set an intention, you understand how people are using the web. We actually did a call 2 weeks ago that we posted on our group, which you are welcome to join. Maybe that's a great opportunity to remind everybody that we have a group on Facebook. It's free to join. It's called Be The One, and it's about helping you be that one company, one brand that other companies compare themselves to, so you become that flagship brand in your industry. So if that's interesting to you, join the group. We actually posted a video that talks about how to set intentions and going deep into the process of that as well. As we go into the third point, we're talking about choosing the wrong platform for your needs. And when it comes to picking the platform, there's so many out there. You can have from a basic website builders to ones you can customize like WordPress, to self-hosted solutions like Shopify. And the goal of this call is not necessarily to tell you specifically which platform to use, but to just help you understand that this is an important decision. For example, if you're going to do e-commerce, you probably would want to go with Shopify or something more advanced depending on the amount of inventory you're going to have. And that's where it's worthwhile to pay an expert to consult you just to make sure you make that right decision, because those changes down the road can end up being very, very expensive. We usually don't recommend any type of the basic website builder such as Wix, Squarespace, and so on, because they're very limited but what you can do from a design standpoint and even functionality. So every time you want to scale your business, you're stuck within this ecosystem that is really built for a solopreneur, for a one-man show. Not to say that there aren't companies using Wix. There are big ones. I'm sure that there are, but it just, for many reasons, we don't recommend that. So a lot of time WordPress would be a good solution in those cases. But having a conversation with a tech partner that can actually help you and go through with you and ask the right questions is really, really important. Nako, I know, is there something you want to add to the tech stack?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that there are different platforms. As you said, some of them are paid, some of them are free. All of them has some limitations. So depending on your goal that you're putting for your website, you can decide which platform to use. And as you mentioned, it's best to consult with someone that has experience with those platforms and can tell you what will happen in 5 or 10 years in the future. And if you can afford it, it's best to use a custom platform that you can customize and model based on your goals, and if you have limited budget, then obviously you go with one of the already developed options, which, as we mentioned, some of them are free, some of them are paid. So again, based on your goals, you can choose something that could suit your needs.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, as a side note, we're going to share this PDF later on, so each person listening to this can actually go through, and you can share it with someone that you know. You can have it for your own to review it. Our next point is poor navigation structure. What you don't want to end up doing is having just a menu that has too many items. The way to think about your menu is simply uh, look at your products and what you offer and think about the typical, because usually most of us has two types of customers. Like, we have our frequent buyers, people that know what they want, people that come to our website, they're raving fans, they're using our stuff, and that's one thing. And then we have the what we call the new blood, the new person showing up for either for the first time or maybe just buy every once in a while. So from a navigation standpoint, you want to make it easy for both. So on one hand, you can have navigation that basically organized based on either your categories or options, but try to keep it simple. Like really build your menu like for somebody new who has no idea about what is that you offer. So it's not overwhelming. So if they are going to the menu and they're looking for something, it's easy for them to find. And also use language that would make sense to them. Like, for example, they may not be familiar with the name of your product. So just having, in the menu product and then the name of your different products, that's good for somebody, again, who already know you. But then having the menu something like, problems or use cases or something like that. So if someone does have a specific issue, but they don't know which product they want to use, they can go to the menu and find, okay, this is my use case. And then through the use case, through the problem they have, they can find what it is. So it's not bad to have a lot of things in the menu if it's organized correctly for that advanced user using your products, being able to find really interesting information and dive deeper. But it's also crucial to make it also simple enough. So you have to find that balance. So when you think about your navigation menu, don't just add things just to have them there because you want. Think about it with that mindset of having those two types of users, and always place yourself in the shoes of your customer and see how you can keep things simpler for them from a user experience standpoint. And a lot of times you can see that by actually there's tools online that you can use to see how much time they spend on your website. There's different heat map tools and understand where you lose people, and they can also help you see kind of like what the problem overall on your page specifically. But with navigation menu, if you're a new company, keep it simple. If you've been around for a while and you have a lot of resources, that's great. There's also always an option to add more details in the footer of the site. So if you have a lot of information, you can add it there while keeping the main menu clean, so that, again, you're not overwhelming new people coming onto your website. And as we move on to the next part, let's talk about some speed and performance. So, slow page load times. Obviously, we want to avoid it. And actually, Nanko, you have a lot of experience in that field, right?
Yes, so it happens in the past that we took over websites that were very slow to load, and you need to make sure that you test every single page of your website and to make sure that it loads very fast. Even if there are some high resolution images, you can optimize them. There are tools available now that you can use even for free. And again, just make sure that every page is tested properly, and you need to test on multiple devices. And one of the mistakes is that when you already load the page on your browser, there is cache being stored on your local storage, and if you refresh the page, it may load a lot faster than if some new user is trying to access it. So that's the way to test it. You need to make sure that for new user it will load as fast as for the old users, and if not as fast, at least not more than 5 seconds, 10 seconds if it's some bigger page or it has more content in it. And for bigger elements like embedded videos, for example, the worst thing you can do is upload the video in the hosting provider where you are hosting your website, and use whatever tool they support to play the video, because in that way, every time that someone is loading that page, it will load the video as well, and that would increase the page, decrease the page speed, and overall the experience for the user. So what you want to use is, for example, YouTube or Vimeo. Those are companies that are spending millions of dollars to use the right software to optimize the video, to use specific encoding, and the way they load the videos is different. Like, they don't load the whole video when you load the page, but they load a predetermined image, the thumbnail, and when you click the play button, then they're going to load the video, and they are not going to load the full video. They're going to load just the part of it, so that you don't use speed, and the performance is kept on level.
Yeah, and sometimes we even see these are actually really great points. So basically, use the embedded video. Don't try to host the videos on the actual where you host the site. Use embedded videos from Vimeo and YouTube. Those are easy ways to make your website load faster. And also optimize the images like Nanko mentioned. But another point that sometimes we see is the hosting itself. I know there's a lot of options for hosting for 15, 20, even maybe $30 a month, but they're not that great. And the reason why they're not great is because the reason why they're cheap is simply because they are. You're hosting your site with a bunch of other websites, and there is this problem what we call the noisy neighbor. If you have if you're hosted with thousands of other websites on the same dedicated server, and you have another website that's not related to you, but that you have a lot of traffic, it will also hurt your site and the bandwidth that you can work with. So with all that being considered, you want to actually pick a hosting solution that's giving you, promising you a certain bandwidth and certain storage, so you can work with that. All these ones that are promising you unlimited, it's I don't want to say it's a lie, but it's unrealistic. Nobody can promise you unlimited anything. So, and if it's cost less than probably $20, it's most likely not good enough. So anything usually $30, $40, $50 and more is important. Those usually comes also with backups and so on. We're not going to touch that today, but your hosting is important, and a lot of them should also include what we call CDN. CDN, basically content delivery network. In short, it creates a snapshot on your website in different places in the world. So if I'm right now in Miami, I can see the version of your site from Miami, so it loads faster for me. There's a snapshot of your website also hosted, let's say, in Europe. So actually, Nanko being in Bulgaria, he can actually view your site as if the website was hosted locally in his country. So that way, he can see a much faster experience. So that's what CDN is able to do. So that's something you can look at with your hosting. As we move on to our next point, we're talking about responsiveness and mobile design. So there's two types of ways to make your website mobile friendly, and just the point itself is important. More than 80 to 90% of people today are going to access your website through the phone, and the most typical way to make your website and the cheapest way to make your website available through the phone is through responsive design. Responsive design, in short, it means that the elements on your screen, the same way the elements show up on your desktop. Let's say you have a banner and you have a text box and you have a photo and so on. So the same way it shows up on desktop, it will just rearrange the elements so they show one below each other on a mobile device. That's what responsive design is. And from its word to respond, it's responding to the screen size. Now, mobile first design is a little bit different. It's where you make intentional decisions about showing elements in certain ways, adding specific toolbars or navigation items, hiding certain elements specifically for mobile users, because you're taking into account that the mobile users have different set of priorities than a desktop users. So you're actually changing what we call the UI, the user interface, to accommodate a mobile user. So rather than just relying on elements shifting on the page to adapt to the screen size, you're actually adding elements or removing elements based on the mobile device to cater specifically to a mobile user. So you definitely need your website to be a minimum responsive. You don't always need a mobile specific design, but sometimes when you have unique functionality on a page, sometimes when you want to show things in a certain way, it's worthwhile to invest. It's a little bit more expensive to do that, but it can actually help a lot. I'll give you the most basic example. Something we do with our clients that's very common is having like a sticky item, like at the top. So let's say when you scroll down on the desktop device, you have a little button at the top that, let's say, it says contact us. So when you scroll down, the button is always there, right? The way this is going to be on mobile, same thing. You scroll down and the button is still there at the top. But when you think about it, mobile users, their finger is closer to the button, not to the top. So what we would do, creating a mobile adjustment, a mobile specific design, instead of having the button at the top as a sticky item when they scroll, when you open the website on mobile device and you scroll down, the sticky bar with the contact button will show up at the bottom. And that's one very easy to understand how you change with the difference between responsive and mobile design. But at the same time, it can expand to many more elements, which we're probably going to do an entire episode just talking about mobile UI UX. As we move on to the next point, we have about neglecting cross-browser testing. And actually, Nanko, he's part of our QA team as well. Is from a project management standpoint, so he can talk more about that.
Yes, it's a common mistake that people are checking their website from one device, one browser, and once they confirm that everything is looking fine, they think that everything is fine, but actually it's not, because people are using different devices, different operation systems, different browsers, mobile, desktop. So depending on those devices, things may look different, and some elements on the website may either not work properly or have a misalignment or overlapping. So what you need to make sure is that you check on multiple devices, multiple browsers, and we know that Safari and Chrome are the most used browsers. So those two you definitely need to check, but also it's good to check some other browsers as well. And again, if it works on Safari on mobile, you need to check on Safari desktop for sure, because again, sometimes there are elements that are not aligning properly, and yeah, you need to check that, because there may be a button that you expect people to click and buy a product, and for half of the users this button may not work because you didn't check that on different devices.
And really, most of us have today, multiple devices, right, at home. Like, if you bought an iPhone 10 years ago, and then 5 years ago, and then 2 years ago, whatever, or an Android device, or your wife, or your daughter, or whoever, that's an opportunity to test. Again, it's your business, and it's the way people see it. You want to understand not how you see your business, but how other people see it. So this extra layer of testing. Again, we have 100 items when we do our own checklist and quality assurance, quality control process. But these things, when it comes to mobile testing in different browsers, not hard to do yourself, just to look at different elements and make sure that they're looking visually correctly, the font sizing correct. Again, many people in their 40s and 50s and even 60s, they need reading glasses. When they open your website on desktop, maybe it looks great to you, but what happens when it opens on mobile? Is the font size make sense? Things you want to consider. Testing different browsers from a practical standpoint. You have a computer, you're using, let's say, Safari or Chrome, download Firefox, download Opera, download Brave. Those are all different browser types. Takes really a couple minutes to download and install them, and then you can actually see how things look. As we move on to our next point, point number 9, we're talking about SEO basics. SEO is a whole topic, which we don't really gonna touch too much today, but we wanted to talk about the principles that can keep you safe so you avoid these mistakes. I actually want to talk first about the last point that I have listed here, which is not planning website migration properly. This is especially and extremely important for those who already have a website and are in the process or building a new website. If you had a website for more than a few months, maybe a year, maybe 10 years, you have rankings. Google knows who you are, search engine knows who you are, they know who your website is. And whether you get, if you get online traffic, organic traffic or not, you still have reputation based on search engines. You want to maintain this reputations, and you don't want to lose any rankings, which you may be aware of or not.
The
And
way to check this is, sorry, the way to check this is just go to Google, type your domain, and if it shows up, that it means that Google knows about you and most probably listed of the internal links.
Exactly. And when building a new website, more than once we've seen that companies just created a new website, completely ignore proper migration, and then they just lost rankings. And except instead of having a new website that's helping their business grow, they had a new website that took their business 5 steps back. So here's a couple things just to keep in mind when it comes to migration. You have these things, we talked about your domain, right? The apple.com, and then there's a slash. After the slash, there is something. That something, the rest of the URL, it's the page name. It's the page path, okay? And those paths, you always want to keep them consistent. There is a tool, if you have WordPress site, you can install a tool for sitemap and go to your domain.com/sitemap.xml, and that will actually show you your entire sitemap and all the URLs you have there. You want to make sure that all these pages are being taken care of and properly migrated. Those that you don't want to migrate, or those that you simply don't need anymore, that's fine. You don't have to spend time on working on pages you don't need, but then you need to apply something called the 301 redirect, which is a permanent redirect. And again, this is a little bit technical, and I get that. This is something that you need to work with your web developer, but that redirect has to be applied correctly. So if somebody goes to a URL path that does not exist anymore, in the technical world it's called 404, then it will redirect them to where this content is, or the most relevant one. That will also keep you safe. But understanding your site structure, your sitemap, the XML sitemap, all the URLs, is the beginning and the first step when working with an already existing site and planning its proper migration, so that you don't damage the reputation of your website. And with that being said, a couple other things we want to consider when creating new pages is applying proper URL structure. Like, make sure the page name means something. It's not like, some random numbers and digits. It actually has a meaning, because the URL structure is used in the criteria for Google to be able to tell what a page is. Google and search engines today are very sophisticated. They use AI. They use very advanced algorithm that's been, optimized for a couple of decades now. So there's a lot of variables we're not going to touch right now that affects it. Those are just the fundamentals that's always been true for those couple decades we've been having search engine. So just stick to that. I'm not saying that's everything you need to know, but this is the basics. The next thing, for example, optimize photos and having something called like alternate text. Again, that's another techy thing, but in the image tag, if you know a little bit HTML, there is a place to put some text description about the image. Very easy thing to do. Most website builders and WordPress and Shopify allows you to add some text there. It will show you it will actually ask you through the user interface what you want to put there, and it will help you to make sure you do it right. Having things just as meta descriptions and proper meta titles. So if I put your website and each page tells me what it's about and there's the description, those things end up showing up on the Google search page results. So make sure they're meaningful. Make sure you understand the limitation of 160 characters, that they can be too long, and that's basically some stuff about SEO. Last point here, I would just say, just get set up with Google Search Console. It's free. It helps Google know that you're a serious business, that Google should recognize your site. So again, if you don't know how to do some of those things, we're happy to help, but find a professional that can help guide you through this process. If you have an existing website, don't just wing it. This is a very important process. We've seen too many times somebody goes, they build a new website, they're so excited about the new design, but the new website launch, traffic drops by more than half. You can avoid that if you just do it right. And as we move into
when you do search engine optimization, make sure that everything is optimized for humans as well, because that's your target, right? Not the search engine, but the human.
Can you explain more about that, Nanka? What you mean?
What I mean is that when you do the optimization, you put those titles and descriptions, and they show on the search engine. But after all, a person is reading those things, and you need to make sure that they would make sense for the person reading it. not for the search engine, because the search engine is it can make sense based on the content on the website and the stuff that you put there. It will make sense of what it is and um, what was the goal of the website. But for the people, it's a bit different. They don't spend hours going over the website and reading everything and watching everything. So you need to make sure that those key elements that they see first would be something that they would wanna see.
And our next point, we're now down to point number 10. Point number 10, make sure your site have an SSL. Basically, that's when you go to a website and it has this the letter S after the HTTP, so HTTPS. And the way to get that, again, going back to what I said earlier about hosting, if you get good hosting, many times it will already include SSL, so you don't have to worry about that. SSL was not a requirement, I think 6, 7, maybe 80 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, but it started to be a requirement for the past decade. And what happens now, if you don't have it, browsers like Chrome, Safari, and so on will label your site as unsafe. It doesn't mean that people can't look at your site, but they'll see that unsafe label, which none of us wants to have that with our site. If you don't get it directly with your hosting, sometimes it's an add-on of like $70 or $100 a year. That's another way to do it. But it's easiest to just get it with the hosting because it saves you time to figure out how to set it up yourself.
And some browsers require you to do two steps in addition to click so that you can load the website.
The next item is when you don't set up analytics. I mean, you want to set up analytics on your site. And again, you don't have to use a very specific one. There's many ones, but I'm going to mention Google Analytics. The reason why is it's free. And we like to say that Google likes Google, right? You're still a business. You still want Google to recognize you and hopefully even rank you. So when you use Google services such as Google Ads, Google Analytics, Google Search Console, Google My Business, so all this stuff, then you're basically indicating to Google that you are, you're using their services, that you're promoting them same way, and they are more likely to promote you. So when Google sees websites that's using the services, it also helps somewhere there in this algorithm. So easy to install. Install Google Analytics. It's free. We do it automatically for all our clients for the website. It's also great to then look back in data, whether you're running a campaign right now or not. You may want to run a campaign in a year from now, in 2 years from now. You want to have this data already collected. You want to get understanding what's happening on your site. You want to always improve your website. So again, it's free. You can always install some other analytics tool, but why not include Google Analytics as well? It will not slow down your website. It's free to use and it's easy to do it from the very beginning. And as we move on to the next point is about weak call to action. Again, call to action is a big topic that we're going to cover on a future episode, but I'm going to touch a little bit now. Make sure that it's clear for someone when they go on your website, what do you want them to do next, okay? And don't make it confusing. Like if your main thing for someone to go on your website is to buy your products, then buy now should be the call to action across the board for the most part. You can either have learn more or discover or see the science, whatever it is, and buy now. So it's okay to have two call to actions, one for those who want to learn more, one for those who are ready to buy. But don't have like buy now, add to bag, add to bag, or get a quote, or contact us, or like stick to one language. Because from a web visitor standpoint, when I go to your website, let's say you're selling some home services products, and I see that you tell me here you can contact us, here you can get a quote, here you can get an estimate. It's like here you can schedule an appointment. It's like 4 things leading me to basically do one thing, but it could be confusing. Like whatever you want the users to do, just tell them. If you want someone to schedule an appointment, just lead with schedule an appointment. If you want someone to just fill out a form so they can get an instant quote because maybe you built in some sort of a software or calculator that speeds up something and it's great to capture leads, go with that. Come up with a way, with a call to action that gives value to the user, allows you to collect their information and to make them go through the pictures that is very direct, Don't confuse, because when you confuse, you lose the customer. So keep it simple. If you have multiple products that are doing different things, again, this is where we get into strategy conversation if we want to combine different call to action, but it has to be done in a very strategic, thoughtful approach. So keep it simple. Don't be cute about it. Don't say, this appointment, blah, blah, blah. Like, don't make those long call to action. Keep it 1 to 2 words. You can have a little segment underneath if you want, but the call to action itself, the button, keep it very, very specific. And especially, let's say, if you have a video on your website, if you have pictures, whatever, visuals, make sure that whatever you say in the video and show and the rest of the page and all your sticky elements, again, communicating the same thing. Because sometimes the video may say one thing, and then when somebody watches the video, it's one thing, and then there is a chat there that says something else, and then on the actual website, there is a different button that says something else. Again, don't end up in this position. Too many decisions the user needs to make, not good for you. Keep it simple. And next,
And from being consistent on the text on the call to actions, you also need to be consistent on the branding on the website. What happens is that if you use things that are already developed and you use them, use like add-ons or stuff, it happens that you have a button that have one shape, and on another place you have a button that is shaped differently, have different animation, and acts differently. And it's not just the buttons, it's colors, it's alignment, it's edges, everything. You need to make sure that everything is consistent, even if you're using already developed add-ons that you're adding to your website. You need to make sure that they're brand consistent. And it's easier when you do a custom website, but again, if you use WordPress and putting add-ons there, it's very easy to install a plugin and set it up and leave it there, and then it's not consistent. And it's not okay to have a website with, let's say in the logo you have two main colors, and then on the rest of the website you have variety of different colors. It doesn't look good, and it's not. It doesn't provide good experience for the user.
yeah, Nako touches a very important point is that basically it's to avoid that mistake that can basically hurt your reputation or cause someone lose trust. Because and the best example, think about like a brand like McDonald's, right? It doesn't matter where in the world you're gonna go to. Even better one actually, IKEA. If you've been to IKEA before, it doesn't matter where you go to IKEA. It feels like you are in your country when you go there. Like I'm originally from Israel. I go to IKEA in Israel. Now I live in Miami. I go to IKEA here in Miami. I feel like I'm back in Israel. Like it looks exactly the same. There's this brand consistency Nanko just talking about, and it creates a sense of trust because what it really does, it makes you look familiar. We like what's familiar. Our brain likes repetition. When you don't give me the repetition, I have to always be on the watch out. My brain is kind of like in looking for what can happen next. It can sense danger. So avoid that by creating repetition, creating a sense of feeling familiar, creating a sense of consistency in the approach. You're removing those guards of someone's when they go on your website from a psychology standpoint. And it's really important when it's trying to build trust and avoid having the person getting distracted by things you don't want them to worry about. So brand is key. And if you don't have a brand yet, if you don't have a defined fonts to use, a defined colors to use, a visual language to use, figure that out first even before you do your site. Because again, once you do your website, to go and fix it later, you can, but it's just going to be more expensive. And
it's the same as if you go to a new place, you enter a room, you don't know what is where is the exit, where is the for example, if you go to a hotel, you enter, the first thing you see the reception, but then you don't, if it's a big hotel, for example, you don't know where is the restaurant, where is the pool, like you're not oriented. But if you already been there and you enter again, you feel like you know everything and you feel more confident there. And that's the same with the branding. When you're consistent, you create that feeling in the users.
Exactly. And as we move on to stock photography, obviously avoid it. That's a huge mistake everybody does. Again, another way to lose someone's trust. And that really it comes to also, fake testimonials and all that stuff. You want to, it's sometimes better. Today people are smart. That's what we learned. People are what we call, they're not consumers, they're prosumers. They know what they've seen with the internet, they've seen everything, they're exposed to everything. They know when something is fake. We all have that sixth sense that tells us that this is nonsense. So just spend some money on good photography, whether it's your service provider and you want to have a photography of your team, for videos of real testimonials, videos of how you do your work, whether it's your product, and you take real product shots of how people, when they use them, even though if it comes to actual product, there is a great use of sometimes 3D modeling and those kind of things. But the bottom line is that don't just go online and use stock photography as they are. You can mix stock photography when you create something with it that add to it. But just buying a photo on whatever, Shutterstock or iStock Photo, and using that just without making any changes to it, without making adjustment, just don't do that. It's not necessary today. We all have access today to AI. We all have access today to great talented people. It's definitely worthwhile. And we all actually have great phones with great cameras that actually can allow us to do. It's better to get even not so great photos, but at least that they're genuine and authentic, versus getting stock photography. So clutter design with no visual hierarchy. That's, again, we've seen many websites that you're trying to put so much information there, so you see like big blocks of text, or you see a lot of links, and I mean, just don't do that. It's so easy to fall into this trap that you, as the business owner, you have all this information you want to share with the world, and you're trying to communicate it, and you want your viewer to see everything, but people don't have that attention span. And when they see something that's overwhelming, they just leave. They get confused, they get irritated even. So just avoid it. There's so many opportunities today to show visuals and stuff, and what we found to be the best is not necessarily not putting the information on the page, but just not trying to put everything in one block or in one fold. It's okay to have a very long page. That's no problem, as long as the information on every section as you scroll through the page is presented to you in a way that feels, gentle and inviting and not overwhelming. And again, I'm using this word overwhelming a lot because it's true. It's you want people to have a sense of wanting to discover more, of wanting to click on a link to learn something, of wanting to get deeper into the science of a product by opening maybe a pop-up or something, but make them ask for it. When you overload the page with information, it's like trying to, it's like we all have this situation when you talk to a friend and he's trying to tell you some story that happened, and the story may be interesting at the beginning, but he's like giving you details and details and more and more and more, and you're like, hold on, like there's no, it's just a monologue and it's not interesting, and at some point you just you just lose him. Instead, what a good storyteller does, it tells you the story and it keeps you engaged. It only gives you a little bit of information and only what you need, so that you want to know the next things, and then it comes with the next punchline and the next punchline, and it's slowly being built up. And that is how you want to build your pages, as a long scrolling conversation, to build that rapport, to create it interesting and engaging, and not just trying to overload the page and overwhelm your customers. That's a very important thing.
And another mistake is not being consistent with the visuals, because let's say, for example, on the page you have mainly 3D graphics, and at some point you put a lifestyle picture. It doesn't make sense. It feels like you dropped it there by mistake.
Yeah. So big block of text, easy way to avoid. Keep it a couple taglines with a see more button. They click see more, then show them more. And again, use layers, right? You don't have to put everything on the page with buttons and animations and people click on things. You can populate and create layers, whether it's pop-up, whether it's a sidebar, whether it's something that can reveal more details, but only reveal the details when someone is asking for it. Don't tell me about the science of your product or about how you build the new kitchen if I didn't ask for it, right? Like, Let me ask, oh, what materials you use, or how did you guys develop the product, and then show me the information. That's how you want to think about it. Think about your website as a conversation, and you'll be safe. A/B testing is the next point I want to cover because it's important, but the when is the problem here. Many times we're talking to clients that either have a completely new website, or they have a website and they're getting maybe 200 people visiting it in a given month, and they're talking to us about A/B testing, and they have maybe some old website from like 8 years ago, and you have to ask yourself, like, what is it you're trying to test? There is a minimum amount of people that you have to get each month to know that the results you're going to get from the testing is even sufficient. So before you go and say, oh, I want to do A/B testing, do you even have 5,000 people consistently showing up to your website every month? And when they show up, are they going to a specific page? Like, you first want to optimize for a metric we call on-page time spent. You want to make sure that when people already go to your website, they stay longer. They stay, instead of 15 seconds, they stay 30 seconds. And then instead of 30, how do I make someone spend 1 minute? Because when people stay more time, they build relationship with your product and services and with your brand, and they create that sense of trust. A/B testing should come later on when you are either an e-commerce brand, or if you're on the service side, that's fine. When you have an array of services and you're actually testing out a campaign, when you know your audience, you have consistent amount of traffic coming in, and then you actually don't want to do A/B testing, we do something else. We don't do it in-house. We actually have a partner that we work with, but we do something called ABCDEFG testing. What does that mean? We're not comparing just two things, because that's the wrong way to do it and it's a waste of time. We are comparing 6 different options at once, and it's very difficult to get there and to do it effectively when you don't have the traffic to justify it, because it's not cheap to do it either. But if you have the traffic, we can help you get that done, and then you will actually end up understanding what messaging to use, what graphics works better with your visitors. You'll have real data to work with. So A/B testing is good. Well, actually, ABCDEFG testing is good, but do it when you have the traffic to justify it, and talk to a professional before. So don't get hung up about the idea of it if you're simply not there from a business standpoint. As we move on to the next point, point number 17 is ineffective or broken contact forms. This is very basic, but we've just seen it too often, where you go to a website, you fill out a form, the client doesn't get it. And maybe the client gets it, but it goes to their spam folder. So it's like they didn't get it, they don't know it. Could be a scheduled appointment, contact form, maybe something broken in the purchase process. Have a practice. If you depending on the amount of traffic, if you have a couple thousand people showing up to your website, every month, have you or someone in your office check just the forms and do like a test order once a week, once every other week, just to make sure things are, there's no issues that you don't know of. And if you have a lot of traffic, like you have hundreds of thousands of people coming to your website every month, have just someone to wake up every morning and just, hey, let's just make sure everything is good, like a little morning checklist. Just like you have a brick and mortar place, and you go every day, you open the door, you lift up the gate, you make sure everything is nice and clean, you position all your, whether it's you have a showroom locations or whatever, you have things you have to do from a maintenance standpoint, and you have kind of like a morning checklist to make sure everything is nicely displayed and welcoming and inviting to your customers. Just because it's a website, just because it's not something that you're touching physically, that doesn't mean that same process doesn't apply. It's still a business, and you have to cater to it as such, and you must every morning show up and set it up correctly, make sure everything is working. So again, I'm not saying that if you have 100 visitors a month, you need to do it every single day, but if you have 100,000 visitors a month, most definitely you must do it every day. So that's a very important piece of information that you gotta make sure you do. You also make sure to test the forms, test different URL path, test your support, test your chat widget, test your checkout. Just have like a list of like 5, 10, 15, 20 items someone, you or someone in your company needs to do every morning. So easy to do and can save you so much hassle. Imagine how much it can cost you if you lose, in some businesses, if you lose 1, 2, or 3 leads, you're losing like tens of thousands of dollars depending on the business. If you're an e-commerce store and you lose, 100 purchases this morning, how much money is that? Is it worth to just have someone spend 20, 30 minutes do it every morning? We believe it's crucial. Uh, Unclear or hidden privacy policy and terms. The reason why we label that as a mistake is because people like transparency today. Okay, so on your product pages, make sure you explain people. Give them a guarantee. Make sure you explain to them what they're getting. If they want a refund, like what is that you're willing to do for them? Is this a 30-day policy? If is there a restocking fee or whatever it is? Just be clear about it. Don't try to hide it. Put it in the footer, maybe even have it in the checkout. Again, you don't need to put it like front and center next to your call to action buttons. That's not what we're saying. But having those, terms and privacy policy, it demonstrates two things. It shows somebody that you're a serious company, that you have your things together. And it also, those people that are concerned, that do want to know what happens if something doesn't go right, or do want to know what happens with the data, they have a place to look and see it. And on your product pages, maybe even add it as an FAQ section. Maybe sometimes we see, next to the buy now button on product pages, you have little icons that says, 30-day money back, or 14-day, or whatever that is, or 1-year warranty. You wanna communicate those things, build trust, again, transparency, and so on. The next item we want to talk about also has to do with accessibility. Accessibility is basically that little widget. It's like it always looks like almost like a wheelchair or a little person that stands like with their hands out. And basically it's allowing people that are visually impaired or their hearing is impaired to still use your site. There's actually laws that require it on every website in certain regions and countries. So it's an easy thing to do. There's different companies that do that. It can cost anywhere from $50 a month to maybe, depending on the size of your website, to $100 or so. But if you're a new website, $30 to $50 a budget for this should be sufficient. And it's not only important because, first of all, if somebody is a handicap, you do want to help them. They're still a customer and they deserve to get service. But you're actually required to do it by law, and in some places you may get sued if you don't have that. Very simple way. The technology today is very advanced that you don't have to do a lot of customization. A lot of times it's just installing a script, sending a script to your web developer, everything on your website, save you from the lawsuit, save you from all this stuff. And with that being said, also to goes with it, also the cookie compliance thing, the little cookie checkbox. You want to make sure you have that as well. People can accept cookies, and you set up your terms. Again, you don't know how to do it, get a professional, but you don't want to get sued for some $30 a month and then be liable for thousands of dollars in a lawsuit just because you didn't have some widget. It's annoying. We don't think it's fair. It's your website. You should be able to get to do whatever you want with it, but the law is the law, so you might as well do it and know what it is. And the accessibility piece, to be quite honest, it is good that it's there. You should be catering to all types of people out there that, in whatever condition they are in. Ignoring broken links, that's a very important piece related to, especially for those that already had a website and migrated to a new website, or just doing changes on the website and they had a website for several years. So you don't want to have 404 pages. If that happens, there's a way to fix it, but just check. There's actually reports, there's tools online, and one of them are actually free. I believe Google Search Console has that, but there's other ones as well for specifically designed for SEO. If you have unworking links on your site, just fix them. If a page is broken, you can fix it. If a page is not available anymore, you can create a redirect. But it's a very easy thing. Again, it will hurt your SEO if you don't have that. And it will also just hurt your visitor, because if someone has a link to your website, and when, let's say on some forum like Reddit or social media, and they go and they click on the link and then it gets to a 404 page, that's too bad, right? I mean, you already you spend the time, you built the site, somebody shared it somewhere, and now they're getting to a page that doesn't work. So find where people are getting there, find where are people traffic coming to your website, and if anyone is arriving on a page that doesn't exist, you can, again, there's tools, Google Search Console, Google Analytics, and there's other tools for SEO specifically that can help you do that. You can fix that. As we move on to security.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, let me continue. So most of the hosting providers, regardless if it's shared hosting, cloud hosting, or you buy a server, most of them already have something in place that could handle your backups, but some of them you need to enable them manually. So you need to make sure that you have a scheduled backup for your system so that when something happens, you have a backup to pull from and bring back everything to life. And um,
We recommend, by the way, at least 30 days minimum, because usually if something happens, you're not, unfortunately, by the way, there's tools that can help you figure out if something happens. There's tools like Uptime Robot, or there's tools like Statuscake where you can link to your website to get notifications when something happens. We use those tools internally also when we manage our client site. But backup should be minimum 30 days. The reason why, if something happens and you were away, you didn't find out, and it's been a week for whatever reason, or sometimes you have a malware and you didn't know until a week later, and that can happen unfortunately in the world. You want to have at least 30 days, so if you need to go back and restore a version, you have that time. In most cases, you'll find out within the first 10 days of something happening. So having a 30-day backup really gives you 3 times what you would truly need. So just make sure that you have 30 days. If you can have even more than that, good for you. It's just not necessary.
and if you have some custom integration that communicates between different applications, you want to have something in place that would notify you and let you know that this communication failed, and maybe through email or SMS, depending on the priorities you have. And once you're notified, then you just go there and fix it. But if you're not notified, it can stay there for months and you won't even know, and people would have bad experience and things were not going to work on the website, even though the website is loading, but internal communication will not work, and that could hurt the sales and the data that is being processed between the different applications.
We called it like plan for a failure, right? Because something may, you can, I mean, once everything is working, it's amazing. But if, especially if you have an advanced site, you have a big site, big ecosystem with lots of integrations, you have to ask yourself, okay, but what happens if these things break? Because if these things break, nobody knows about it because it's somewhere in the code behind a black box. That's a very bad design. So you want to build something into your integrations and into your platforms that gives you notification either via text or email to you or to someone in tech team. And if you work with a tech partner, for example, like ourselves, these are things you can ask for to make sure that are in place. Like, for example, a very common thing that we do with our e-commerce client is an integration with the fulfillment technology called ShipStation. We have a tool that tells if something happens with the integration, we get notified right away so we can fix it. Because you don't want, in this particular situation, an order being backlogged, and then you have, instead of shipping orders in real time, then you have 3 days because nobody noticed that orders are not getting through to the fulfillment center, as an example. But you want to make sure that in your different integrations and in different things you install and your website itself, you have something that will alert you when something goes wrong. And we also make a use of staging environment. That's another way to help when it comes to it. So again, this may be a little bit more advanced to a little bit bigger sites where you're not making changes necessarily on the production environment. Production environment basically means the live version of the site that everybody sees. Staging means a version you're working on, but that nobody else sees until you deploy that to production environment. So sometimes you want to make sure you have a staging environment so that first of all you are deploying changes to staging before you are deploying them to production, so you don't break something, so you can test them first. But second of all, you, again, from a security standpoint and also ensuring the reliability of your site, if something happens to your main site, having another version of it on staging can also become beneficial as well. So having that layers of redundancies, we actually have anywhere from 3 to 5 different redundancy layers in our development process. There's UAT and so on, but we for the sake of this conversation, and for we assume most of the people are going to watch, you're building things on their own or just finding out about this information. We're not going to dive too deep on that, so we'll stick it just with production and staging for now. As we move on to our point number 22, edge cases. So testing is 80% of the work when it comes to coding and software development. Depending on the type of changes and the type of systems you code, and the type of situations you're building. But having good process can help to not have to do 80% of the work of testing. But the truth is, if you don't test something, you don't really know if it can actually work. And you don't want to deploy something to your website and just hope that it's going to be fine, because it never is on the first time. And what we're talking specifically on are, not adding a new blog post or updating an image on your homepage. I mean, you should test that too to make sure it looks good on different devices and resolutions and so on. But we're really talking about, those in companies that have a website and they have a lot of traffic, and maybe they're deploying a new software, a new feature, a new integration that was built. I mean, I assume that most should know that, but it's still important to understand, especially for those building, or getting into business, building everything. It's very common that testing takes a long time. And the more people you have testing, the better. Okay? So use different devices, use different things, and don't just test so things look good. Actually test it all the way as if you are a customer, or hire a professional team that does good testing. There's also softwares that can help with testing, but even today with AI and with the tools, you still need to have someone go through the process themselves. You still need to have a human in the process to do it. So testing is important, and not testing your items, doesn't matter whether it's a feature, whether it's something on the website, make sure it just looks good. Click on that preview button. Even if you're about to post a blog post, make sure the images are aligned properly. Make sure the post looks good. Make sure the bullet points don't look weird. It can be simple like that, and it can be also more advanced item. Another thing when it comes to testing is email. Many times we see people creating beautiful emails that looks great on the software, but then when they send it out, there's something weird about it. The alignment is not right. Send the emails to yourself. Look how it looks on the phone. Look how it looks on desktop. Check how it looks on mail. Check how it looks on Gmail. Check how it looks on different mail clients. It really takes less than 10 minutes to do and can save you a lot of trouble, because you have this campaign, you're building an email, it looks amazing, you spent money on design, you coded it, you send it out, and then somebody doesn't see it properly on mobile device. Don't let that be, you and your emails. So testing for different edge cases is important. An edge case is basically something that in the industry is not very common to happen, but can happen. Now, there's always going to be something that you can't predict, and that's okay. No software is 100% bulletproof, not even Google software, not even Facebook software or Apple software. There's always edge cases, and you just want to fix them over time. So understand that testing is not something that you do once. It's something that you will encounter. It's a daily practice that you have to implement, and that will help you avoid those edge cases. The next point we have is internalization and language and localization. Especially for business. I mean, if your business is operating in the US, you definitely want to cater at least to English and Spanish, right? But even to more languages. If you want to make your environment feels familiar to people and welcoming, whichever language you're coming on, we treat all customers the same. Okay, so whoever is willing to buy from us, we want to help them do it easily. So build a system that allows you to do that. Take that into consideration. With AI today, again, it's a lot easier to do content. It's a lot easier to do translations. But if you have someone in your company, or if you can get someone that speak that language natively to make the cultural changes, to detect those cultural differences and make sure that it's actually written and pronounced and it just makes sense, that's always recommended. Ensure your system can support it. Again, I'm not saying you need to have, tens of languages in your website, but the main ones, especially in the areas you're servicing your customer in, I mean, that's definitely important, and it's easy to do today, so just why not? The next point is that about scalability. You don't want to build your system based just on what you need today. And you don't necessarily want to build it based on what you're going to need 100 years from now, but you want to build your system based on what you need anywhere from 5 to 10 years from now. So when you make decisions for your website, when you make decisions about tech stack, when you make decisions about your brand even, think about, is this going to be me this year, in 3 years, in 5 years, and maybe even in 10 years? Because it's a lot easier. I think it's Jeff Bezos that said that what the questions that people don't ask him and they should ask him is not what's going to change in 10 years, but what not going to change in 10 years. Because you can build business on things that are not going to change in 10 years, but you can't build a business if everything always changes. So when you think about what's not going to change in your industry in 10 years, then you can start making decisions for your technology and your website that going to allow you to build features and tools that are going to be really productive and going to give you that competitive advantage in the marketplace, because some of those things require an investment and you don't want to invest in something, right, that's going to change in a year from now. And then what happens, people just don't do anything. So, take a step back, think through, what do I know about my industry, about the tech as far as it comes to my type of business? What do I know that probably going to remain the same over the next 5 to 10 years? What do I know about my brand that will always be true? What do you know about the type of service and products and the things we're going to do for our customers? What do you know about it that's not going to change? And then think about, what would I need, where would I need to be if I had 10,000 customers, a million customers? And obviously pick a realistic number. So if your actual goal is to have, let's say, a million customers in 5 years, is your system can support a million customers the way that it is now? Because if you want a million customers in 5 years, you're going to have to start building it. And if your system in year 3 can support it, you'll never get there. You have to have the vessel that can contain your vision. And if you don't have the right vessel, then it's like having a glass of water. You may want a bottle of water to have more water, but a glass can only have so much, can hold so much water in it. So make sure you have the right vessel. Think about what's not going to change. Think about who you are, what matters for you and for your customers in your industry, and start making those decisions that will allow you to scale over time. So technology is not going to hold you back, but will be able to propel you forward. And I think our last step, point number 25, has to do with maintenance. I mentioned it a bit earlier, but it's important to emphasize on its own. Maintenance is required for all websites. And I like to use the analogy of a business owner of brick and mortar that goes to the shop every day, open it up, clean the shelf, set up the product, turns on the computers. That's maintenance. There's no difference. The online world is can get very messy, and there is a lot of dirt that needs to be cleaned up. There's things that needs to be updated. There is code that needs to be eliminated because it's old. There is new tools that you want to integrate to deliver better customer experience. So maintenance is important. Now there's two types of maintenance. There is maintenance for the sake of just making sure things are working. And then there is also maintenance from an advancement standpoint. How to make sure we're staying on top of our game. So you want to consider two options. The first part, do it. The second part, do like a quarterly meeting, or maybe even once a month, where you talk, you and the team and maybe your web developer, what's new, what can we do better, what do we know about an analytics, opportunity to have kind of like, a meeting about everything that goes digitally on your company and how can you take it to the next level. So perform the maintenance, but don't just stay there. Also think about advancement and think about how you remain cutting edge and provide great value to people that visit your website online.
Something to keep in mind here is that almost every month there is a new version of the browsers, the programming languages are being updated, and all of those things are affecting your website. And if your website is outdated, then at some point it may stop working. So you need to make sure that it's working every time.
Exactly. And one thing, again, going back to our securities, because on some level, there's an overlap here between some of the points that are all relevant. But again, just to remind you all, I'm going to post this PDF so you can have access to it, those 25 points. But, maintenance, security, owning your domain, very important things. And again, everything else really are items here that are not that difficult to do yourself. The goal here is not to take and try to do everything 100%, is to get you guys started on that practice. Okay, if you do those 25 things, you are already so much farther along than most businesses out there. Because I know what's going on out there. We work with business owners, and the truth is, most websites, they just exist. Nobody touches them. They stay for 5 years. Nobody checks them. And only when there is an issue, somebody wakes up and want to do something. Use technology as a tool. Use technology as an opportunity for you to really take your business to the next level. Most business today is done online. A lot of the business today is done by people seeing you and vetting you on the internet. That's not an option to neglect this situation. So these 25 points, these 25 mistakes you want to avoid are going to be available for you so you can look and reflect on your website, on your technology, and just tackle it point by point. Obviously, if you need any of this help, we're always happy. You can go to HCP Team, HCP.team website, and connect with us. But again, join this group. It's free. We meet every 2 weeks, and from time to time, you can even come on, and we'll be more than happy to directly answer some of the questions that you have as we open Q&A sessions in the future too. Thank you for everybody joining us. Thank you so much, Narkud, for being here as well. Any last words from you?
No, thank you too as well, and thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Bye, Vidar. We'll see you next time.